welcome to the Thunder and Lightning Show. Today, Ryan has a Thunder and Lightning hot take for us. So, Ryan, what is your hot take?
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're sitting down. Put down any drinks. You don't want to spill them if you're driving a car. Make sure your seatbelts are buckled. But this is my hot take. And it is this. Nobody should become a diocesan priest. Obviously not women, but no man should become a diocesan priest. Why do I say that? Because the diocesan priesthood is dead, finished, it's a relic of the past, and if you really want to fulfill a vocation of the priesthood, you need to become men, young man, old man, whatever kind of man you are, you need to become a religious priest. Join a religious order and serve the Catholic Church there, serve the people of God, become a priest in a religious order. Now you may ask, why? And the answer is simple. Because the diocesan priesthood has completely lost its identity. It has no identity, and I don't know if you could say thanks to Vatican II or thanks to Trent or whatever, or Vatican I, I don't know. But I can tell you that right now, what is the identity of a diocesan priest? Well, on paper it is, well, I become a priest and I give people these sacraments and I have to be celibate and all this stuff. Well, that's the theory or whatever, but what's the reality is that essentially it's a bunch of guys who are more or less live like bachelors and also they kind of live like hermits. And in these parishes where they go over there and say Mass every day, and there's a bunch of old ladies with blue hair that nag them, and they really don't have any prayer rule or anything like that, and they have no community support, so a lot of times they're miserable, and a lot of times they quit or get a mistress or a mister, or if they're, LMNOP or whatever. Now, all of that is bad. But effectively, it takes a superhero to live this diocesan vocation. Because again, you are a hermit with no prayer rule and so little formation. And you're thrown in there all by yourself where everybody's pulling at you. And the bishop, if you turn traditional, he hates your guts. And so the best thing to do is if you actually join a religious community, you're formed in a way of life and a rule of prayer and a way of life. You have a community of brothers to support you, whom you live with, and you're not tossed out to live as a hermit, okay? And then you have backup that the bishop isn't immediately your boss, where if he tells you to wear a clown nose at Mass and give communion in the hand, you can just go tell him to pound salt and say, I'm not doing that. And then he says, well, then you need to get out of this parish. And then what do? Well, you go home and live with your brothers. And you're like, fine, I didn't want to be here anyway. Have fun, Bishop.
Yeah, he's got to chase down a priest.
Yeah, good luck finding. Maybe you could, Bishop, you could say Mass here and have meetings with Susan of the parish council and help them plan the next greatest liturgical dance. Do you have a leotard, Bishop? Anyway. So there's my hot take. Forget the diocesan priesthood. Join a religious order. You'll be much happier. It's more authentic. And let the dead bury their dead. And, maybe someday the Pope will start appointing religious priests to be bishops, which is, by the way, what the Eastern Orthodox do. They're all monks who become bishops because they're actually, at least they're supposed to be, holy men who are well formed in a school of prayer, and they know how to live in a community. And if we started to do that, and we have priests who actually live in community and know how to pray, know how to serve the liturgy well, to pray the divine office, the church would be tremendously better. But instead we have guys who play video games and watch Walking Dead, and okay, they go out and do some outdoorsy stuff. That's good to have some recreation outdoors. But video games, waste of time. Walking Dead, bad. Sleeping in, that's laziness. Not praying the breviary. It's being a teenager. You have no responsibility. Well, I have to go over and say Mass. Well, I have a meeting and prepare these people. You're basically doing nothing all day long. You're doing nothing. You're eating, at McDonald's and getting obese. You're going to have a heart attack. Do you see how many diocesan priests are unhealthy? They're huge. They all are like 300 pounds and whatever. And they're miserable too. They hate everybody because it's a mess. So don't do it.
Well, and Taylor Marshall took some criticism for saying this very point, don't become a diocesan priest. And, obviously he encourages people to join a Latin Mass religious order.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the bishops, and there are bishops who are from religious
There
orders.
are,
like
yeah.
the recently deceased Bishop Murray of Youngstown, Ohio. He was a Jesuit.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinal O'Malley is a Franciscan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bishop Stowe, the evil Bishop Stowe, is a Franciscan.
Some of
as
these
well.
guys are
So
bad.
we're seeing people from religious orders being named as diocesan bishops. So then what's the incentive at all for anyone to become a diocesan priest? You're just going to be thrown out into the middle of nowhere where you're living by yourself.
You have no family, no religious brothers. You're a total monad. And the bishop is going to treat you like the water boy who he can fire at any time.
Yeah, and there's no accountability.
No.
That's another aspect. The community and the accountability.
Yeah.
Both are beneficial, extremely beneficial for these types of religious orders. But what I've seen also more recently is like parishes were given to communities, like religious communities, from the diocesan bishop because the diocese has no priests.
No priests.
And so they invite these religious orders in, and it benefits both parties, the religious order and the diocese, because the religious order is getting paid from the diocese and they get to do their outreach, and the diocese doesn't have to find more priests or close parishes.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of going to be a new model. And so, I mean...
Yeah, and there's even something, orders like the Oratorians, canons regular, in some ways are sort of like that. They're because this phenomenon that we have about the diocesan priest living on his own, it just never existed in history. Parishes were designed where you would have like these 3 or 4 priests who would be there together, and so they had this little fraternity. But now, because there's no vocations, that's all gone away, and you have one priest living by himself who's lonely and depressed and whatever, and he never talks to his other priests because they're all too busy. And the best thing to do is give it over to a religious order, or have a new community formed of a couple priests who live according to a rule of life, a prayer rule, and then they can maintain a parish. But, I mean, diocese, the first syllable in there is die. Diocese. They're all dying. And so, join a religious order if you want to be a priest.
All right, well, thank you so much,
Thanks,
Ryan,
John.
for your hot take.
Hot takes!
Thank you for watching. We are the laity,
and we will not be silent.